Here with Power 1310. I'm Mark. We appreciate you joining us every Saturday morning here. Your opportunity to talk with Attorney Anderson live. And I don't have my script, but I'll make sure to get it during the course of the show. Basically, when you call, you've got an opportunity to talk with them. Talk with them live here, 800-1000. The views and opinions expressed in this broadcast are solely those of participants of the show, not necessarily those held by Max Media. It is for informational purposes only, and realize when you call, your voice may be used as part of the broadcast or promo. So 800-1000, 800-1000. This is the Anderson Law Power Hour with Attorney Tim Anderson. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Mark. Good morning, Hampton Roads. It's a chilly day, November 2nd. Wow. It's like Halloween. We were outside in shorts and flip-flops 2 days ago, and now it's like 34 degrees outside.
Yeah, man.
What is happening?
Fast. Boom, boom, boom. Just like that.
The wind came in right after Halloween was over, trick-or-treating, and I was like, well, there goes the warm weather. Just Mother Nature sucked it all up, and now we're going to be cold forever, I guess, until...
Well, I was actually glad this summer was over. This summer was kind of toasty to me. It really was, man. It was hot. I was outside doing all types of odd and end jobs. Demolition jobs and so forth, delivery and what have you. Whoo, boy, that sun was beaten down.
Yeah.
What's the topic today?
So, timeshares.
Okay, all right.
We had a couple phone calls this week for timeshares, and I thought, that's a good topic to bring up and cue listeners in on, especially people who may not listen to the show live and are searching our database of material on Facebook. This one is about timeshare. Now, every show we've done since the beginning of the Anderson Law Power Hour is archived on Facebook.
Yeah, good idea, man. Smart.
And so if you go to our Facebook page, Virginia Law Office, go into Facebook and type in Virginia Law Office, you will be able to see every show that we Facebook Lived. Covered a lot.
Yeah.
We've done bankruptcy and criminal and guardianship, and every show in the subject, it talks about what we talked about.
Right, yeah. A lot of good advice, man, I tell you. I've never said, it would take years and years and years for someone to figure out what you know, of course, by your profession. But there it is, we get more insight from consumers,
Right.
Not everybody scans the dial or is astute or keen on the internet. We want the answer right then and there. So smart on your behalf to do that.
Yeah, and I've pointed a lot of people to the podcast. People call up and, they're like, hey, I have a question about this, and my staff says, hey, well, that's going to be a consultation fee to see Mr. Anderson, but if you want to watch his show on Facebook, that's free. Feel free to go do that, and then if you have other questions, go from there. So, we're creating this wealth of information for people. It's free. It doesn't cost anything to watch, and certainly there's no obligation. So if you have a legal topic, feel free to go onto Facebook and look at the conversations that we've had in the past and see if any of those help answer the questions that you may have. Anyway, timeshares. This is a big one. So I don't know about you, but I love going to timeshare presentations. I love it.
Okay.
It's so much fun for me. I guess it's just this weird personality that I have, but going to a timeshare presentation for me is as fun as fun of a Saturday as you could possibly have.
Okay.
What I love about timeshare presentations is that they usually give you lots of free stuff.
Okay.
So you can go to Massanutten for a free weekend, and they put you up in the hotel out there for free, and they give you some money for food and all of that. And all you have to do is sit through a 90-minute timeshare presentation. And so obviously the timeshare companies entice people to sit through their timeshare presentation with the promise of a gift. Now, I've been through lots of timeshares. I've gotten lots of free perks and free vacations over my lifetime as a result of sitting through these timeshares, and I can tell you that that it's very aggressive. If you've never sat through a timeshare presentation, it's very high pressure, very aggressive. But if you go into it with the 100% expectation that there's no chance you're going to buy, then it just makes it. You just have to continue to say no. However, the timeshare folks know that even for guys like me that go in there with this expectation that there's at least a shot that they will get you to say yes. So when you go into a timeshare presentation, essentially what they do is first they entice you with whatever the offer is. 3 nights a hotel stay, and a food vacation, food and all of that. Some of the Orlando timeshares will even pay for airfare down there, and you just have to pay $200 or $300 to get this 4 or 5 day vacation with airfare. So when you get into this timeshare situation, you go into a generally a room, and you meet your salesperson, and the salesperson's going to tour the property. You're going to walk around and you're going to see the property, and obviously what the salesperson is going to do is show you the positive amenities of the property. There's lots of different types of things in the resort that would entice you to probably want to become a part of it. And then after you've seen the amenities, that tour might take 30 or 45 minutes. Then you're going to go into the sales part of the conversation. Now, I'm not a timeshare salesperson, so I'm not saying I'm an expert on the ins and outs of everything here. I'm only speaking with what my experience has been going through these sales pitches. But anyway, you go through the sales pitch, and the first thing that the salesperson generally does is they come out and they create a value of what the property is worth. Now, backing up just a second, what is really timeshare? So what timeshare is that they take a particular unit, like a condo that you might be looking at, say a 3-bedroom condo, and they divide it by 52 weeks. And when you are purchasing the condo, you are purchasing the right to use that condo for 1 week a year, every year. And again, there's lots of variations and lots of deviations to this. You could maybe purchase it every other year or whatever. But for the simple part of this, you're basically buying 1 week to use this condo, this 2-3 bedroom resort, and all of the amenities in the resort for some type of a dollar value. And what and you get nothing more, nothing less than that. So if I buy week 26, then I can't go on week 25, or I can't go on week 27. I only buy week 26. Now, there are ways to trade that in and all of that, and I'll try to talk about that a little bit down the road. But essentially, you're buying this week to the property to use, and you would have that exclusive right to use that condo for that week every year while your contract is in place. Now, in Virginia, timeshares are deeds. They're actually land transactions. So when you purchase a timeshare, you're actually going to get a deed to your property, no different than a house.
Cool.
So you get a physical deed, and that's recorded with the circuit court in the county where the timeshare is. And most of the timeshares in Virginia are either here in Virginia Beach, in Williamsburg, or out in Massanutten. There may be some up in DC, I'm not sure, but the big ones here are probably in the Virginia Beach area. So when you buy your week, you actually get this deeded property. So after you've toured the property and the salesperson showed you around, he's going to come out, or she's going to come out, and she's going to say, all right, here's all the value of what you're getting. This week normally costs $15,000, but because we like you, because you're our friend, we're going to sell it to you for $8,000 or $9,000, $10,000, whatever. You seem like a great person, you'd be a great fit here, we're going to sell you this week for $10,000. All right. Now, of course, there's negotiations, and you can go back and forth and all of that. But what are you signing up for when you buy that week? Here's what you're signing up for. One, you're paying a fee for the use of that timeshare. So that's that upfront money, that $10,000, right? That $8,000, that $15,000, whatever that number is. That's what you're paying to buy the deeded week to that property. Then what you have to pay with your timeshare company is what's called a maintenance fee. And what a maintenance fee basically is it's a annual fee that you have to pay. And what the resort does is it says, all right, our costs to maintain this property are $4 million, and we divide that $4 million over all of the owners, and everybody's maintenance fee every year is say $800.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you have your your initial investment plus you have this annual fee every year. That will likely go up over time because obviously everything goes up. The labor costs go up and things happen. Now the other thing that you're signing up for is something called special assessments. And basically what a special assessment is that if a hurricane comes through and wipes out the roof of your building, your unit, then it costs them $100,000 to fix that roof, they're going to take that $100,000 and they're going to spread it out to all of the owners of that building to fix that issue. So now that that can come up with weather or without weather. A fire could happen. Strong storm. Whatever happens, that's what you're signing up for. So essentially, that's what you're getting. Now, in exchange for all of that, you get the right to use that week every year for the term of your contract. And for most of the time, the term of that contract is forever. Now, there are some contracts that may only be 10 years or 20 years or something like that, but that's where you, basically what you're buying. Now, kind of think about what you're buying here. You're buying a week at the same resort every week, every year for the rest of your life.
Yeah, like a regular mortgage.
Yeah.
Okay.
And is that something you really want to do? I mean, when I go on vacation, I like to go to different places.
Right. Yeah.
I like to go to different. I don't want to go back to the same place every year. There's a couple places I wouldn't mind going back to, but I don't know that I'd want to go back to them every year for the rest of my life. So the timeshare industry has created this workaround with that, where you can basically exchange your week for some other week at a different sister community, sister resort, some type of a partnership that they have. So if I have a week at a timeshare here in Virginia Beach and I don't want to go here, then I can go to this company. I think it's called RCI is the name of the company. But I can go to this company and I can say, here's my week for the Virginia Beach timeshare. I want to trade this 2020 week for a week in California. And there's a broker house and a way to do all that, and you pay a fee to do that. And so that fee may not be tremendously much, $300, $400, $500, $600. But you are paying that to switch, with a different week in the network. You can also take if your week is the third week of July, and you can't come for the third week of July, you might be able to switch your week to the second week of August through the same kind of program and the same kind of a fee. So what the timeshare gig is all about is that once you become part of this family, you have this wide open opportunity to trade and move around anywhere, presumably in the world where there's a resort, a timeshare kind of a resort. And that's the allure. So you're not only buying the deed to the property here, where you're doing the timeshare, but you're buying the ability to have access to all these other resorts. Mm-hmm. All right. Sounds like a dream come true, right? I mean, it's a vacation for life,
Seems like it'd be really expensive.
Well, yeah, I think that most timeshares are probably around $8,000 to $10,000,
okay,
to buy that, plus the annual fee. I mean, yeah. I think most of them are. Now, obviously, some timeshares, maybe like in Maui, might be more, and some timeshares might be less, but you are essentially buying the value is where your resort is, whether you're buying a 1-bedroom, a 2-bedroom, a 3-bedroom, and also the week.
Right.
So like for instance in Virginia Beach, a popular week may be the second week of July or the first week of July, around the 4th of July.
Right.
That may be a very popular week.
Mm-hmm.
A less than popular week might be right now.
Right.
The first week in November. Who wants to come to Virginia Beach on the first week in November? And so if you buy a timeshare for the first week in November in Virginia Beach, it may be a lower value. And basically when you are trying to trade your week for some other week, you're not going to be able to take your second week of November timeshare in Virginia Beach and even Steven trade it for some second week in Maui. So it's just, there's this kind of value thing, right? So anyway, so it's about 10 or $15,000, say is what you're going to spend, 7 or 8,000, whatever. And when you buy it, you've got to write a check for it right then for $7,000, $10,000.
Yeah.
Now most people
Finance it.
Yeah.
And
when they finance it usually, and what I've seen are rates around 15 to 18% interest. So you're taking a $10,000 loan, and you are financing it at 18% interest. So you're going to, and you're going to do this, and they're going to spread it out. They're going to go 10 years, something like that. So you're going to have a $300 a month payment, roughly, on your timeshare every month, on top of the $700-800 annual fee that you have, maintenance fees.
Okay.
So this is going to end up costing you $4,000 or $5,000 a year, bottom line, and that's going to be that way for 10 years. And people don't really think about it because who can't afford $300 a month? Probably anybody generally can afford $300 a month, and to make sure for the timeshare side of it, they won't even let you go through the tour if you don't make at least $40,000 a year, kind of a thing. They're not going to let some unemployed bum go through a timeshare presentation, that would have no chance of being able to pay it. But the average family can probably afford it, and $300 or $400 a month. So you would think that because the timeshare market is so valuable and such a great thing, that if at some point you've bought your timeshare and you no longer want your timeshare, there should be some kind of a resale market, right? Well, that's where it starts getting hairy, and that's where it starts getting dicey. The resale market on the timeshare on timeshares is virtually non-existent, which means that if you wish to unload your timeshare, you very rarely can get any value for it. And why is that? Well, the primary reason for that is that most people who are not in a timeshare and are not in a timeshare presentation and have the ability to really think through this, think like this: why would I give you $10,000 for a timeshare and $800 a year for maintenance fees and possibly a special assessment if there's a bad storm? Why would I do all that when I can just go get a hotel for a week, and spend $3,000 or $4,000 for the week, or $2,000 for the week, or whatever it is.
Right.
I can get a hotel for $300 a night, and if I stay there for a week, it's $2,000, and it's a new place. Why am I going through all this to buy a timeshare when I can do that? And to make it even worse, there's a timeshare company out there called Red Week, and what Red Week does is they take guys that have timeshare, like say I have a week in Virginia Beach. It's like eBay. I can put it in this Red Week website, and then if a family wants to buy my week for just that week, they may pay me $900 for it or $1,000 for it. Basically, what it costs for me, my maintenance fee, right? And so a family in the know can buy, right, can take advantage of the timeshare value by going to this website called Red Week, and they can buy the week that they want anywhere they want without committing to anybody, just buying that week from another person who's already bought it for about $1,000, maybe $1,500 depending upon the location. And that gives them full access for the full week, full access to all the benefits of the resort, all of that. It's all included. And so because as a secondary consumer, I can buy somebody else's week for about $1,000. Why would I want to buy a whole timeshare from you trying to sell it, for $8,000 or $10,000? So that's why it makes the market flat. There's no resale market for timeshares. Now, I've been doing bankruptcy for 20 years, and a lot of people who file bankruptcy have timeshares. And in 20 years, and a lot of them are paid off. They've paid their complete contract off, and it's just the annual maintenance fee. I've never seen a bankruptcy trustee ever take a property and sell it, a timeshare property and sell it, because there's just no market. If you go to eBay and you type in timeshares, every timeshare on there is trying to be sold for $1.
Right. I see what you're going. Yeah.
And the reason they're trying to sell, why somebody would sell, if I paid $10,000 for a timeshare, why I'm trying to sell it for $1 is so that I can get out of it.
That's right.
And
just get out of the contract.
And you take care of the maintenance fees moving forward, right? That's the issue. Now, there are companies out there that are called timeshare unloading companies, and you may have a timeshare that you could sell to them. Sell meaning that you have to actually pay them to take it. Right. So you might be able to get your timeshare to this unloading company they may charge you $2,500 to take your timeshare that you paid $10,000 for, right. And that you paid $800 a year for maintenance fees or whatever that is, and then they will take it over, from there. So because of that, timeshares are extremely terrible investments. I mean, you don't want to buy something for $1 today and it's worth nothing, next year, in 5 years from now. And that's where timeshares can become very problematic. Now, even for a guy like me who knows this, I have to tell you that going through some of these timeshare presentations, you get kind of caught up in the moment, and they do it that way. I mean, they will say things that make you second guess reality. They are very good at doing this. All right. Now, I like to call the timeshare world creating reality. And what they're creating is they are setting the basis of what reality is. And when they first come in and they say, hey, this timeshare is worth $25,000, but we're going to sell it to you for $7,000, and we're even going to be so nice we're going to finance it for you. Who could say no to that? This is a deal of a lifetime. They're creating the reality. And if you succumb to that reality, then it does seem like a good deal. It does seem like a good thing to be a part of. But if you are able to say no, and you're able to say no, and you're able to say no, and then the sales manager comes out, because now it's serious, right? Yeah. And he's called the closer most of the time. The closer will come in, and if you can survive him, then on your way to where you get your free stuff now, whatever the Disneyland tickets they promised you or whatever, there's one last person that you got to pass, right? And they're just going to, they know at this point you're not in, right? You haven't drank the Kool-Aid, and they're just going to try to hit you with some little way for them to recoup their costs, right? And that person will, will try to sell you some, maybe come back next year, we'll let you come back next year for $1,000 or something like that. And we can do this all over again. Just come back and try the resort. You don't have to buy $1,000, come back next year. And, obviously this is substantially savings, but just come back next year and just try a whole week and see how you like it or something like that. They'll try to do something like that. And then if you can finally get past that last person, then you get your free stuff and then you can go. Now, I love it. Okay, I love it because it's fun and it's enjoyable. If you tell a salesperson that they'll be like, hey, it's $7,000. If you say, I'll counter your offer with free, you can give it to me for free, and you guys pay the maintenance fees and special assessments as long as I own the property. That's like your counter offer. That makes them very angry, and and that will get the closer in there quicker, so you can kind of move on with your day. But they will really push you down. Now, once, and I probably would have fallen for it
the first
or second time.
Yeah.
Before I was a bankruptcy lawyer and before I knew what was really going on here with this market, I probably would have fallen for it. So what is this show about? Well, the show's now about what happens if you did fall for it. What happens if you did buy?
Right.
How do you get out of the contract?
Let's get the number out. Can we? I got a
Yeah,
feeling
sure.
some folks don't know.
800-1000.
Yep.
And so if you're listening to this show and you own timeshare, you're probably right now at this point saying, that's me. I'm the one who fell for it, and I wish I hadn't.
Yep.
So how do you get out of it? Well, unfortunately, it is deeded property. And so it is very hard to get out of a transaction like that. In Virginia, the law generally says you have 3 days, 3 calendar days from the time you sign it to get out of the contract. If you don't rescind the contract within the 3 days, then you are in it. All right? Now, keep in mind, you've bought the timeshare one of 2 ways. Either you've written a check for it, you've paid, that money, or you have
Credit card.
you've financed it, right? You financed it. Yeah, and you financed it with their money. Now, I will tell you that, and like you said, very expensive. I know that there are timeshares out there that can be $70,000, $80,000, $90,000 with some of the bigger companies. So this could be a huge thing. Like if you're trying to get the 4th of July in Maui, you may spend a lot of money to get this access to this timeshare.
Yeah.
So this could be a lot of money, but I think that the average, I looked it up before the show, the average timeshare is around $10,000 to $15,000. That's like the average purchase price. So you've either written a check for $15,000, and now you have the deed, or you financed it. So how do you get out of it? Well, you have to now find somebody to take it over. So you've got to either give it to someone and let them take over the payments, or you have to sell it to someone, or you have to get it to one of these timeshare unloading companies. Now, the timeshare unloading companies are not going to do business with you, from what I have seen, without having the entire loan paid off. So you getting out of the deal is unlikely going to happen without there being some type of the loan being completely paid off, and the only thing that is due is maintenance fees. But what happens if you have, let's take the financing option. What happens if you don't follow through and you're like, what, I'm just not going to pay anymore. I'm out. I want to get out of this timeshare. Well, in that kind of a situation, you breach your contract. You've got a money loan, and they're going to sue you. And that's the remedy that they have. They can foreclose on the property just like they could foreclose on your house. They can take what they get at foreclosure, apply it towards the loan, and then you can be on the hook for the difference of the contractual balance. They can, so that's their ultimate remedy if you default. And what they can sue you for is not only your loan balance, but any of the unpaid annual fees. And so it can become a total nightmare rather than a this big vacation that you would this blissful vacation and opportunity that you had had. So how do you get out of it? You sell it, you get somebody to take it over, or you file bankruptcy.
Oh, wow.
And so
you have to go that route?
Well, that's the only other way to get out of it.
Oh, my.
Now, fortunately, most people who are filing bankruptcy are not filing bankruptcy just because of their timeshare. Right. They have other problems. But if you are filing bankruptcy, the bankruptcy can get rid of that obligation with the timeshare company in the repayment, in the bankruptcy schedules and how you would schedule them out to be surrendered. So you absolutely have the bankruptcy option to get out of your contract. Now, if you went to Maui and you bought a $70,000 timeshare,
that's another story.
and now they're bearing down on you because your timeshare is not really worth much, if anything, even an expensive one from there. And now you're super negative and all of that, and they're telling you owe them $50,000, something like that. Maybe you do have to file bankruptcy to get rid of that one. But as far as the the average timeshare, you filing bankruptcy gets you out of it that way. And so that is the only real ways of getting out of timeshare. And there's a lot of people that I talk to buy timeshares. They'll say, "Well, my salesman said this, my salesman said that, and this isn't happening, and this is not happening, and they induced me to do this, and this is not the reality of what I was told during my presentation." And this is something that in Virginia we call the parole evidence rule. And what parole evidence basically means is that the contract speaks for itself. The contract is the four corners of the document. It doesn't matter what the person said to you to get you to sign the contract. The terms and conditions of the contract are contained in the contract. And so if the contract says you're buying week 13 and you're paying this amount of money for it, you're not going to be able to trade it for week 15 unless your contract specifically says that you can do that. You're not going to, your maintenance fees can go up unless your contract says that's not going to happen. So if your salesperson says, "Hey, our maintenance fees haven't gone up in 15 years and we really don't expect them to go up ever," and you buy in and then next year your maintenance fees go up 30%, you're not going to be able to say, "Hey, my contract said, my salesperson said this wasn't going to happen," but unless the contract says it's not going to happen, you're bound by the contract, not what the salesperson said. So you have these contracts that control the situation. So just keep all of that in mind, that if you are first of all, don't buy timeshare. All right, that's the first advice. But if you have bought timeshare, there's no way to really get you out of that unless you are in a position of going through either a bankruptcy or finding somebody to take the property over. And if you go on eBay, there's people that are selling them, and I don't know if they're successful or not, in that, but you might be able to sell it for some very low amount of money, assuming that your loan is paid for and you're current on your maintenance fees. You might be able to find somebody who will take it over. Now, if that happens, now get this: if that happens, there's fees that you have to pay to the timeshare company to acknowledge the sale. So not only do you have to pay some lawyer to do the closing documents because it's a real estate transaction, but you also have to pay the timeshare company a fee to change in their system who their owners are. So.
Yeah. Let me get that number out, Tim. I'm sure you've piqued some folks' interest in saying, how can I get out? I'm going to be a little facetious here. Over the years of doing radio, I think I've probably done about 4 or 5 commercials saying, get out of your timeshare, get out of your timeshare, with respect to the industry, but it's kind of an obvious hole in the ground.
Yeah.
Might be my way of phrasing it, but 800-1000, 800-1000, 800-1000, 800-1000. Your chance to talk with attorney Tim Anderson, as this is the Anderson Law Power Hour here on Power 1310. On Facebook, Anderson Associates. You can go there, and VirginiaLawOffice.com, VirginiaLawOffice.com, where you can go there and check out the catalog and a great library of information. So many great shows, as you mentioned, Bankruptcy, that show, the gun show was fantastic. Thanks for breaking that down and deciphering all the crazy ideas that are perpetrated through the media. Let's see, the DUI show we did last week, or if you ever pulled over by a law enforcement professional. And one of those shows, contractors getting away, or finding contractors who've taken your money and run, so to speak. And I think that one had 8,000 views or something. Like, whoa!
Yeah.
If there's evidence of a market.
Yeah, you can see the popularity of the shows by the Facebook Live views.
Wow.
So
yeah.
So we've talked about timeshares and the problems with timeshares for the first 30 minutes, but let's talk about the other kinds of weird contracts you can get yourself into. When I was at Lynnhaven Mall yesterday, I was there right after work, and in the parking lot was this white truck that said 30 ribeye steaks for $20. What I like to call the meat truck. Now,
I almost had a job doing one of those a long time ago. I said, no way.
Well, yeah,
Too much running.
It seems it seems very suspicious to me that I would buy meat from some weird guy in the middle of a mall parking lot. I mean, yeah, maybe I'll buy some kind of I don't know, towel or chair or something like that from a guy sitting in a parking lot. But food seems suspicious, right?
Yeah.
But there's a company in Virginia called Capital Meats, and this is how they do it. They're out of Richmond, and they they make their money by these meat salespeople that go around and sell their meat. Now, let me talk about how this works between going to the mall and then coming to your house, because they do it both ways. And I'm not specifically just talking about Capital Meats, because I know there's other companies out there, but I know that this is one of the people that do this. If you go to the mall and you buy meat from this guy, then the meat that you purchase, it's a done deal. It's a transaction. So if the policy of the company is no refunds, then you are bound by by that policy. So you're not going to be able to bring the meat home and put it in the freezer and then grill up the grill that night and cook it and then think it tastes terrible and then ask for some kind of a refund. I mean, you can if the policy is to some kind of a refund policy exists, but if it doesn't, then you're bound by the terms and conditions of the sale. However, and this has happened to me, if you're home on a Saturday afternoon and the doorbell rings, and on the other side of the door is the meat guy, and he's like, "Hey, I got all these these ribeyes and these tenderloins and all this meat here, and it's a $200 value of meat. I'll sell it to you for $90. It's like I only got like 2 sales left, and I can go home," and all that, whatever they say, to get you to buy it. And you buy it, then the rule changes. Even if there is a no refund policy, door-to-door salespeople are governed by special rules in Virginia that allow you to cancel that purchase for up to 3 business days. 3 not business days, 3 calendar days. So you have 72 hours to rescind the contract. Now, I was home one day, and I did buy the meat. I bought it. It seemed like a great deal. I mean, I know how much meat costs, and this was a pretty phenomenal deal, it seemed like. And I bought all this meat and wrote the guy a check, and all this meat went into my freezer. And then as I was a couple hours later, after I thought, what did I do? Why did I just buy 75 pounds of ribeyes?
Right.
Why did I do that? When am I ever going to eat this much meat?
Right.
And food sits in your freezer for a long time. It starts getting freezer burn. It starts turning bad, even if it's frozen. I mean, you got to eat stuff in the freezer pretty quick. You don't get to long-term store it forever. And so I looked at the contract. Because this is a long contract. There's big words on the front of the contract and little words on the back of the contract. Well, the little words on the back of the contract are what matters, right? And so I looked at the contract, and it explained the rules in Virginia, which I knew, about how to cancel a contract within 3 days and how you have to do it. And what I had to do is I had to fax a letter to a particular phone number and said, "Hey, I bought this at this period, on this day at this time, and I want to cancel this sale." And I did it, and about a week later, the meat guy came back up and he picked up the meat, and I got a full refund, right?
Okay.
And so you get those rules if they come to your house. But if I had bought that same meat yesterday at Lynn Haven Mall from the meat guy, I do not get those same rules, because I'm going to him and I don't get that 3-day right of rescission. Now, I may get that 3-day right of rescission if the meat company allows that to happen, but probably not. I don't suspect that they would voluntarily do that. So the difference here is that if you go to the guy in the mall parking lot and you buy it, you get different rights than if you go to the guy who comes to your house. Now, that's not just covering meat, that's covering any kind of door-to-door salesperson. I had a water guy come by one day, just unannounced. Hey, we need to, your water is terrible, Virginia Beach water is the worst water ever. It's worse than Flint, Michigan. And, we can put this fantastic Culligan system on your house for $14 million, or whatever it was. And, you listen to them and, first off, when I woke up in that morning, here's a good rule. When you wake up in the morning and you have no intention of buying a water treatment system, then when you put your head on the pillow that night, you shouldn't have a water treatment system out, being installed in your house, right?
Yeah.
That should just be the general rule across the board, if somebody's coming, the only people that I buy things from anymore would be like if the Boy Scouts came by and tried to sell some cookies or candy or something like that. But big purchases, you should not, I guess back in the day, I don't think they do this anymore, but there, used to have Kirby vacuum salespeople would go door to door, right? And try to sell their vacuums, and that's just how how it was back in the day. I don't think those generally exist. I think encyclopedias used to be sold door to door, right? And that's the a lot of that doesn't exist anymore, but definitely the the meat guy exists and the water treatment guy exists. So you have those rights. Now, I've also had people come to the door that have said, "Hey, your house looks like crap. We can fix it up. We can put new gutters on your house. We can we can do all of that." So let's kind of talk about that. Same kind of a rule. If I call a company to come out to do my to replace my gutters, then I'm asking them to come to my house, and that's one thing. If somebody just knocks on my door and says, "Hey, we'll put new gutters on your house," then that's a different thing. So if I contract with the company that I called, then that contract is binding on me. And if the company comes door to door, then I still get that 3-day right of rescission. So if you have a contractor or somebody who just shows up at your house unannounced and offers to do services, and you contract with them to do it, then that you get 3 days to get out of it. Now, obviously, if some guy comes to my house and says, "Hey, I'll clean your gutters for $200," and he gets up there and he cleans my gutters, I can't cancel the contract on him because he's performed that service. So it depends upon a variety of different things. And so when you're in at home and the doorbell rings and somebody's trying to sell you something, the best advice generally is don't buy it, obviously. But if you do buy it, you should have, under Virginia law at least, some provisions of getting out of that within a 72-hour window, so long as you give specific notice to the specific people. Now, with my meat guy situation, for me to get out of that contract, I had to fax a letter to this particular number. That was in the contract. If I had just written a letter in the mail and mailed it to him, that would not have comply. And so how you cancel it is contained in the contract. And so that is how contracts work in Virginia, how door-to-door salespeople work in Virginia, how you get in and out of contracts and move things along. Now, let's flip it over to a car lot.
Right. I know. I thought you'd go there.
Got to always go to the car lots.
Definitely, man.
There's always so much material to talk about the car lots.
Yes. Let's get the number out, Jim. 800-1000. 800-1000. You're listening to a very sharp attorney, Attorney Tim Anderson, as this is the Anderson Law Power Hour. 800-1000. 800-1000. You get a chance to talk with him live on the air here, free. But when it's off the clock, so to speak, or on his time at his office, you'll have to sit down and talk to him and pay the bill. But get a chance to at least get pointed in the right direction here. 800-1000. 800-1000. I'm not going to steal your thunder, but I remember that because I was in a situation like that. But go ahead.
No, go ahead. You can participate as much as you want right now.
I bought one new car, and I kid you not, I'd been buying used cars practically all my life. Followed what my grandfather did. Learn how to rebuild engines or some things like that, or maybe a relative has one that the condition of the car. But I kid you not, it was like, man, I really did say, do I need to see a lawyer? I really did say that.
Yeah.
So, this is like 6 pages, man, and the print gets down to like 6 or 4 point. And you sign your initial list. Like I said to myself, I was making good money. I didn't mind, but I said, I'll never do that again. It was scary.
Yeah. Yeah, you wonder why all that language is on the back of the contract.
Yeah, but it's like,
do you
goodness
think
gracious.
do you think that
Whoa.
language is to benefit you?
Right, yeah.
Or do you think it's to benefit the car dealership?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, if somebody throws a contract in front of you, it's likely to benefit the person who's asking you to sign the contract. Like it's written in such a way that it benefits them. If you are going to go rent a house from somebody, your landlord is going to hand you a lease that is 6 or 7 or 8 pages long,
Right.
and 7 of those pages are to benefit the landlord, and 1 of those pages is to benefit you. And that's
Right.
which deals with how long you get to live there. And so, anytime you are signing a contract, you have to assume that all of that little language on the back is all to benefit the other side in the event that you don't do what you're supposed to do, which is make your payments, right, or pay the contract. All right. So in Virginia, there is let me back that up. There are some states that have something called a cooling off period. So when you go and you purchase a vehicle from a car dealership, you may have a cooling off period, which allows you to change your mind and return the vehicle. And some states have that codified into law, where maybe it's 2 days or 3 days or 7 days, and other states don't. Now, Virginia does not have a cooling off period. And so that means that once you sign your name on that contract, it's a done deal. You can't change your mind 1 minute later, 1 hour later, 1 day later. You are locked in to that deal. And there is no way to rescind that contract unless by agreement between you and the car dealer. Now, you and the car dealer can all agree that you're going to get out of the contract, but absent the car dealer agreeing to rescind the contract, the deal's the deal. And the issue with that is that you may find after you purchase, maybe not a new vehicle per se, but especially with a used vehicle, you may feel like, after you've driven the vehicle around for a day or two, maybe it doesn't run as smooth as it did, the very first minute you drove it. Maybe, it's a little harder to start at 4 o'clock in the morning when it's cold outside than it was at, 2 o'clock in the afternoon when it was warm outside. Maybe when it's cold outside, you're rolling down the windows and it makes a screeching noise that it didn't make when the temperature was warmer. It's 34 degrees this morning. It's going to be 60 in the afternoon. I mean, obviously temperatures change rapidly in Hampton Roads, and things can change, right? And so, if you want to take that car back because you don't like it or you don't like how it's performing, you're not going to be able to do that in Virginia. Now, the car dealers in Hampton Roads can give you what's called a 7-day return policy, but that is only by agreement. All right, so if one car dealership offers some type of a return policy, then that is just between you and them. That is not the law. You can't force that policy on some other car dealer. That is a customer service thing that they do. That's not the law. So when you are purchasing a vehicle, especially a used one, it may behoove you to purchase it from a dealership that allows you to return it if you don't like it. No questions asked kind of a thing. And, a lot of these dealers will say 7 days or 1,000 miles, which means that you have 7 days to cancel the transaction and bring the car back. As long as you don't put more than 1,000 miles on the vehicle, then they'll take it back, no questions asked. And that works out very well for the consumer. But that's a customer service thing. That's a marketing gig for the dealerships. They have to decide if they want to do it. So unless you have that, and you do not get that option. And that is something that has to be in the contract. So if you are at a dealership and you're purchasing a vehicle and you want, you're doing it because you want that 7-day return policy, you have to make sure that is written on the contract that you're signing, that purchase agreement, and make the dealer write it. I have 7 days and 1,000 miles to return this vehicle. No questions asked. Make them sign it and initial it if it's not already in the contract.
Right. Same thing with the quote unquote free oil changes.
Right.
Yeah.
Whew. Those free oil changes, that's a nightmare. Yeah. That's a nightmare.
We have it written down.
Yeah, they'll have it written down. Yeah, the dealership's not going to mess with you on that. You know why? Because they want you to come into the dealership. I can't believe that. I think most car dealerships offer the free oil changes because they want you to come in. Because first of all, I don't know if you tried to get a free oil change from a dealer before.
No.
But it's a nightmare.
Oh my. Okay.
You have to call it. You have to set it up. You're going to be there for 2 hours. They make it purposely difficult. Now, some of the dealerships, they have like massage people in there and little masseuses and pedicures and all that stuff. And it's like, wait, how come I can go to Jiffy Lube and they can do my oil change in 10 minutes, but when I go to the dealer, it takes an hour or 2 hours? And so, they make it where it's just not cost effective to get the free oil change unless you just have absolutely nothing to do and time doesn't have a significant value in your life. They make that difficult. So but the dealers want you to come in because you come in, they have all their cars on the lot, you possibly will be looking around. You might want to purchase another car, or even better, when you get the free oil change, you're like, oh, by the way, your Predicany shaft needs lubrication. It's going to cost you $50 for that. You're willing to do that, and you need a blinker fluid, that kind of thing. So, there's all kinds of ways that they get you in there. When a mechanic can get under your hood, they'll find other issues, to talk to you about. Yeah, we know you came in for an oil change, but we happen to just glance at your brakes and they're in terrible shape, and we can fix that for you for $700, kind of a thing.
Oh, well, yeah.
And so anyway, so I don't think you have to worry too much. I mean, I think you're right, Mark. Everything needs to be in writing, obviously, but I don't think the dealers are going to hit you too hard on the oil changes because that's only a way for them to make money. The oil change itself can't cost them but $5 or $6, and you're forcing a customer in your dealership either to find more repairs or find other issues. And that's why they do the free inspections. The free state inspections. Same thing. State inspections. We have to get our vehicles inspected every year. Well, that's amazing opportunity for a mechanic to find things wrong with your car. And so hey, if you come here, we'll do the inspection for free, and then they'll be like, oh, and by the way, there's $400 worth of stuff you'll have to have done to get this inspection passed. It's a great deal for it's like literally it'd be like making the public have to get their air conditioning system tested every year. If the law was every year you have to have your HVAC system tested and somebody comes out to do it, I think that the HVAC system companies would do it for free because they'd have the opportunity to find something wrong with your AC, and you'd have to pay to do it. That's just a great thing for them to sell more stuff to you. So in Virginia, there's no cooling off period, which means that if you buy a car, that car is yours. And if you don't perform on the deal, then what's going to happen? They're going to repossess the car. They're going to take the vehicle. They're going to sell it at auction. And then they're going to apply it to your loan that you signed for. And whatever they get at auction versus what you owe, there's going to be a deficiency balance, and then they're going to sue you for that deficiency balance. They're going to garnish your wages. They're going to do, make your life absolutely miserable, which ultimately will likely result in you showing up at my office to file bankruptcy.
Right.
And so, be careful when you purchase a vehicle. At the very least, when you're purchasing a new vehicle, you get the lemon law, which is protections in case your vehicle has big problems. But the lemon law does not apply to used vehicles. And so if you buy a used vehicle, you need to have it inspected by a mechanic. I mean, it's crazy not to. You buy a car, most people aren't mechanics, and I don't know if you've ever opened the hood of a newer vehicle, Mark, but like if you open up my 2019 truck, you can't even see the engine, because there's this big plastic cover
Oh,
over
yeah,
it. You know, you
that's
can't
right. Yeah,
you
the
can't even
cover's
get
there.
to it. You know, oh yeah, there's an engine. Okay, great. I can't even see it. And so
Right.
you know, and everything's computer and tech. You know, all
Yeah,
this
man.
is you have to have an engineering degree to work on vehicles now, newer vehicles. And so you know, you got to get a mechanic to look at it. You got to let them weigh in on whether the vehicle is in good working order and what other issues are. You got to have somebody look under, make sure the vehicle's never been in a wreck, despite what Carfax may say. Carfax may say the vehicle's never been in a wreck, but it may have been in a wreck and just was repaired off the books, so there's no way for the DMV to know about it.
You shared that story with us before.
Yeah. So you've got to get somebody to put their head in the vehicle.
Knows what they're doing.
Who knows what they're doing. You know, it could have been in a flood.
Right.
You know, could have been, you know, all kinds of things. So these are issues that when you're buying a vehicle, before you sign that contract with all that little writing on the back, you've got to have somebody look at it.
Yeah.
And
I kid you not. Yeah.
and if you don't, then when you buy the car and you find out down the road that, you know, it had been in a wreck or it had been, you know, in some kind of problem, you most of the time are going to be stuck with it. There could be some exceptions, but most of the time you're going to be stuck with it. And then, you know, obviously reselling vehicles, not as bad as timeshare, but not good. You know, you go and you buy a vehicle for $20,000, it's probably going to be worth $14,000 the next day if you try to trade it in, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they drop very quickly, and so you got to make sure you're purchasing the right things. Anyway, this is Attorney Anderson. Today was November 2nd.
Yep.
So have a great day, Hampton Roads. A nice fall day ahead of us, and we will see you next week.
Appreciate it, sir. As always, we appreciate you listening to the Anderson Law